Well, a very good evening to you, and welcome to the West Ham Voice on the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice. How many of you were celebrating our win until you heard the news about Danny Ings? I mean, I don't know how many times I'm going to say it's this season, but how's our luck? It's incredible. I just don't know. Every single time we think we're going to start our season is going to start progressing forward, something happens. Look, how many times have we signed a player with a history of injuries and always hoped that they were going to get through a season, only to find that they didn't? Zuma, Agerd, and Cornet are all part of the current squad, and we all know that they have a history of injuries. And we've been without Zuma for the best part of the season. We were without Agerd for half the season. We've been without Cornet for the last 4 months, and now Danny Ings. I mean, we were all actually joking that he might not actually make it to the game on Saturday because he could get injured on the coach, or he might get injured in training. What happens? He gets injured on the first game that he played. It's incredible. And we hear that he's out for maybe 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on, and just see how our squad is faring up at the moment. But a little bit of self promotion. Last week I got interviewed by, I don't know how many of you saw it actually. If you're in London, you may have seen it on the 6 o'clock news. On Friday evening, I was interviewed. It's a very, very short 10-15 seconds of fame. But if you want to go and see how badly I came across, you can do so on that link after this show. It was a story about David Moyes and about our current plight. And this chap came over who interviewed me, and my friend Wiggy as well, who unfortunately got cat out. He spent about two and a half hours here filming, only to capture about 20 seconds of footage. So if you're interested, you can go on that link later on and see how I came across. And then I was interviewed also by the Daily Mail. And if you capture that QR code, you'll be able to see the full interview. I was interviewed by Daily Mail, and it's got a bit more detail. I actually quite liked it because whereas the ITN story sort of cut out all the nice things I said about David Moyes, this one actually included it. So if you're interested in that later on after the show, you can click on that barcode. On that QR code, and you can go and see what I said in that interview as well. Yeah, I'm famous. There you go. Right, let's carry on. What have we got in store for you this week? Well, the same old stuff. Going to do the match reviews. Going to talk about the game itself, about the under-21s and the women's team very, very briefly. Go into player news, all the updates on injury news, on loan news, etc. And of course, transfers, because we've had quite a few transfers, haven't we? Players coming in, players going out, and quite a few players linked to leave, as well as to come in to the club as well. So I'm going to bring you all that up to date a little later on. But first of all, let's go into the chat room and see who's there, because I can see there's quite a lot of comments. So I'll scroll all the way to the top. And while I'm doing that, I just want to check on something. So bear with me 1 second. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I've got the right one. Thank goodness for that. Right. So who we got? Good evening to you, Ed. How are you? Ings injury? I'm afraid so. You could not make it up, could you? Good evening to you, Hammerette. So the West Ham way, can't actually believe it. We are so unlucky. Are we unlucky though? You know, I think there's something about sometimes you can really be unlucky, and sometimes you ask for bad luck. You know, like I said a moment ago, Zuma, we knew about his knee injuries before we signed him. Agerd, apparently we knew about his ankle injuries before we signed him. Cornet, he has got a history, even though he didn't get that injured when he was at Burnley, but his previous history, we knew about that as well. In terms of Ings, we knew. You know, I talked about him before we signed him last week, and we were aware of the injuries that he had. But I guess Moyes thought it was a risk worth taking. Hammer it again. Hope everyone is fine and dandy. Probably won't be around this evening. Oh, shame. If you are, great to have you here. If not, hopefully we'll see you soon. Good evening to you, Hammerwell. Is this on ITV? Very funny. Good evening to you, Foxes. How are you? Is it unlucky, or do West Ham keep buying some pony and truck? This is the problem, isn't it? It's like, do we ask for this? Do we ask for trouble? Sometimes it feels like we do. Good evening to you, RJR. It's like a carry-on film. You couldn't have been far wrong. I'm sick of Foxes, Arsenal fans telling me they haven't got Rice. It's a long way to go. You never know. After this poor season, Rice might turn around and go, "Oh, you another season." You never know. He may not leave. I mean, chances are that he will. But Arsenal think that it's a done deal. It ain't. Good evening to you, Martin. 125 grand a week to sit on the physio bench. At least Cornet will have someone to talk to. I've got a bit of an update on Cornet as well. Good evening, Mike D. It's the West Ham way. When have we ever bought a player and then not got injured for weeks on end? It's madness. It's just like, I couldn't believe it when I heard the story earlier. And I had to double check it and treble check it just to make sure that it wasn't a joke. And I was told, no, unfortunately, it wasn't a joke. Good evening, Debbie and Mark. I'm very well. I hope you are. Was over the moon to CSB Everton, but something always has to bite us in the arse. Can't believe we sold another great academy product. I'll get onto that as well, because that has kind of pissed me off, to be quite honest with you. Good evening to you, Anthos. Diganis Bolagala. Flip me. Is he related to Kieran? I think we've got everyone related to Kieran Dyer at the moment. Good evening, Robert. I hope you're well, mates. Just doesn't rain at West. Yeah, I know. Good evening, Robert. Seems to be the West Ham way, unfortunately. Christ, bad luck just follows us around, doesn't it? Howard, good evening to you. I hope you're well, mate. Good evening to you, James, as well. Usual suspect. I can't believe it. Stella's slumming it on YouTube. I thought you was a mainstream. 20 seconds, mate, But I enjoyed it. I don't think my mate Dave enjoyed it, who came all the way over here, then didn't even get 5 seconds. You want to get presenter than Stell, Jamie Carragher. Thank you, appreciated. Usual suspects. Not too worried about Ings, as Aston Villa thrown a wheelchair and stretcher for that 15 minutes. Good evening, Anthony. I hope you're well. Our bad luck since Zuma kicking his black cat. I would say we need a break, but one of our players would instantly snap a leg. Is it our crap training pitches? No. This happened to him on the pitch. You can't even blame the training pitches. I guess you've got to start looking at, should we have... Look, I actually think Ings is going to be good for us, but Christ almighty. I mean, how many games are we going to get out of him now? Who else we got? Good evening, Steve. I hope you're well, mate. And everyone, we need to get another striker in now. We won't get any points in the next 3 Premier League games. So that useless lump Antonio at top end. Well, hang on, Steve. Do you remember before season started, you said we need a striker? We got Scamacca, we got Ings. How many do you need? I'm only kidding. Good evening, Martin. I hope you're well, mate. Yeah, we kind of did all know it was going to happen, didn't we? Hello, mate. Paul, how are you? I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. You know what? Yes, Anthony. Mbama may finally get... I hope Mbama plays, and I hope Mbama gets a bloody hat-trick. And David Moyes starts to think, maybe I've got 1 or 2 youngsters I can use here. I seriously do hope he gets a full game, or at least start the guy. Now we can't play Scamacca, we can't play Ings. Well, he was cup tied anyway. You want to rest Antonio for the next game against Newcastle? Fucking play him. Play Mbama and see what happens. Steve, as for Moffi, he ain't coming. He wants to stay in France. I've got an update on that as well. Good evening to you, Aaron. I hope you're well. Got more chance of Ings picking up an injury still. Won't be. Debbie and Mark, Antonio Myers looked good when he drifted out to a winger spot against Everton. I think we should convert Antonio to a wing and have him as cover for the likes of Bowen. I've got different views on Antonio, to be honest with you, but I'll get to him in a little bit later on. Good evening to you, Neil. I hope you're well. 7:30 in the morning on Tuesday. Thank you for joining, mate. Much appreciated. Good evening, Brian. I hope you're well. Let's scroll down to people I haven't said hello to yet. Where are we? Good evening, Vinay. I hope you're well, mates. How many games does Moyes have? This is it now, Vinay. I think this is it. I don't think the board are now going to... I think they're just going to say, I think we need to win... ideally, I said we need to win 9 games. 1 is out of the way. We need 8 more games. If get no other... If we lose all our other games, we just need to win 8. Or we win 6 and draw, 3, 4 might just be enough. I think he's here to stay for the rest of the season, mate. Good evening to you, Flamer. I hope you're well. You on time tonight? I'm always on time, mate. Who else have we got? Let's scroll down a bit and say hello to a few other people. Howard, the new camera crew are still setting up stealth. Yeah, big time indeed. Big time indeed. Steve, Danjuma's put Everton on move on hold because he won't sign if they appoint more. Yeah, I read that story. I don't. No. Good evening, Daniela. I hope you're well. I don't think players can make those sorts of demands, to be quite honest with you. He either wants to go to Everton or he doesn't. I don't think we were even in for him anyway, to be quite honest with you. I know the stories were running around, but I think that was more agent talk. Resurrected. Good evening, Daniela. I hope you're well. Good evening, Chris. I hope you're well. 3 years, Ings has stayed fit. 20 minutes playing for West Ham injured. Isn't that? I mean, I don't know what to say. Good evening, Trodge. I hope you're well. Good evening, Schmeigel. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Good evening, Peter. Pleased we won, but next 3 games in the league will tell us if we have the balls for a relegation fight or not. Absolutely spot on. I do agree with you. They're going to be tough, aren't they? What have we got? We've got Nottingham Forest. We've got Newcastle and we've got Chelsea, I believe. Not in that order, but those are the 3. Oh, no. Yeah, no, I was right. Newcastle, Nottingham Forest and Chelsea coming up. Usual suspect. Breaking news. Stel Moyes in for Douglas Bader. Really? Bill, watched it live, nearly choked when you saw me on TV. Peter Stell turning into a TV post. Me, I'll always be the same Stell. You know me. Good evening, Scott. I hope you are. I haven't seen you for a while, Scott. I hope all is well with you. Trodge still doing his hostage thing on the news nowadays. You know, when they contacted me, they said ITN. What have I done wrong? And then Daily Mail as well. And then when the Daily Mail guy phoned up, he said, "Oh, you don't normally get a call from the Daily Mail, do you?" I said, "No, not unless I've done something pretty bad." Good evening, James. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining, mate. Good evening, Epic. I can't believe some fans think Moyes has turned things around because we beat Everton. No, we haven't. You know, there's a long way to go. Really long way to go. Razor, why would you talk to the Daily Fail, a fascist Tory rag that doesn't support working class nurses, ambulance drivers, rail workers, teachers? Think first whose side you're on. I know whose side I'm on. You know, I was talking about sport, but I make you right. You know, I agree with you. They are, anyway. Lawrence, good evening to you. I just scanned QR code and got... Good evening, Alison. Thank you for joining. Under Sullivan's reign, we have signed 53 strikers. Of them, 22 never scored a goal for the Hammers. Will Ings now be 23? He'll score a goal, but maybe not that many if he keeps getting injured. Juha, good evening to you. You kick a ball around on the field with 21 other men. It is lucky all our players do not get injured. Lucky. Alan, good evening to you. Moyes is the Jonah. Whilst he's here playing shit, we will always have bad luck. What can you do? David M. I saw that. Well, thank you. There's a story doing the rounds that Danjuma moved to. If David Moyes doesn't go there. Well, let's disappoint you all now and say, I think David Moyes is here to stay. I think that win has saved his scalp. For how long? Someone asked earlier on. I think probably for the remainder of the season. Can I see the board changing things? Look, you know, it's just... It is a worry. I have to be honest with you. There is a concern that we could go the next 3 or 4 games without another win. That we cannot do. You know, someone mentioned, have we now got the balls to actually get some points of the next 3 games? They're not going to be easy, mind you. Chelsea up and down, Nottingham Forest at home. I still think we were unlucky against them, but they're beginning to pick up some stride at the moment. Newcastle, you know, we can hold them. I don't want to go out there and defend only against them. I'm not suggesting we should go out against all these teams and just go for it and then get hammered 3-0 and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, I think the way we played at the weekend, there's a lot of hope there. And that was without Ings for quite a lot of that game as well. Ian, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening, Jonathan. How are you? Ings' injury record, not as bad as many think. Only Liverpool, he did not play. But Southampton and Villa played over 20 games for both. Well, I did it last week. I wish I put the stats up this week. He has had a lot of injuries. But you're absolutely, I make you right. You know, some of them have been pretty confined. I think 2 big injuries in his career, which made him miss quite a large chunk of games. Trodge, Equa bloody scored last night. He got... I don't get that one, mate. I'm going to come to that as well. That has really, really disappointed me, to be quite honest with you. Disabled team, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Clive. How are you? Thank you for joining. And a thank you, by the way, to all my moderators who do a great job to try and keep you all in control. Let's get on with the show. Let's start with the first part of the show, and that's to do a match review. So, first of all, the ladies' team, we're back in action again at the weekend, and their second defeat in the league in a row. They were defeated 3-0 by Everton at the weekend. 2 goals from successive corners in the opening 12 minutes put Everton ahead before they scored again to get the 3 points just before early in the second half. We went close a couple of times. Kate Longhurst, Vivian Assayi, but sort of got close, but we're largely disappointing in front of goal. We're now down to 7th in the league, in the Women's League, and next up for them is the game against Liverpool on Wednesday in the Continental League Cup. So hopefully they'll pull it round. What about the under-21s? Well, Mark Robson indicated that a loss of rhythm in possession and disappointing defending from set pieces led to the under-23s 3-2 defeat against Man United. We went 2 goals up. Someone has already mentioned Pierre Equa scored a fantastic goal and then set up Divine Mbarma for the second goal in the first half. We were 2-0 up at half time. However, a penalty awarded to Man United in the second half on 52 minutes, and then 2 goals from corner kicks on the 68th and 85th minute, respectively, lost us the game. Robson admitted that the defeat was quite disappointing, a difficult one to take. But despite the defeat, we could find positives in the first half efforts, and the side were eager to praise his performances. He was eager to praise the team's performances over the last few weeks. But now we're without Pierre Equa, who's been quite an inspiration for the under-21s. He was their captain, so I'll speak about him in a moment to find out exactly what's going on there. Right, what about our game? Well, just before the game, a few days before the game, there were a few comments made by various players. Saeed Benrahma was on the West Ham website and he said, I want to help in any way I can. I feel like I've been trying to help the team when I'm playing. I feel like my happiest when I'm playing. But when you're a part of the team, it's important to accept the decision of the coach, which probably indicates how unhappy he probably was when he got subbed or not started over the past few games. He said, we win and lose together. I'm happy when I have the ball. I'm trying to take on players, do tricks, dribble and score goals. I want to create more chances for my teammates. I think when we get rid of the breaks, we play much better. Now, that is a clear indication, isn't it, that the players themselves feel that the way we've been playing so far this season has held us back. And Benrahma has alluded to that. And so it was subtle. And I'm glad that players speak out and say what they think, so long as it's in a respectful and it's a subtle way. And then we go for the sledgehammer with Antonio. Speaking to Footballers Football podcast on Sky Sports, Antonio explained where West Ham have gone wrong this season. In doing so, the tactics changes implemented by the under-5 David Moyes came in for sharp criticism. He said, we've changed the mark from let's not get relegated to let's push for the Champions League. We were jumping steps. We tried to change our philosophy. You can see this season, we haven't played the same way we've been playing in the last 2 years. We've changed it. We've brought in players to play through the thirds. Over the last couple of years, we've not really played much possession football. We kind of sat off teams and just countered. And we knew that worked for us, didn't we? Because we've been up there in the top 6. Everyone up there plays possession football. They keep the ball, try to break teams down and score more free-flowing goals, which is what David Moyes has tried to change and make us do. He talked in the pre-season about having to change the way we approach our games. He knew that. You can see over the last few games, we've conceded more goals on counter-attacks than we ever have in the last 2 years. We're open way more and more expansive. Teams are countering us the way we have encountered them. It's transition. We're trying to transition to become a bigger team, blah, blah, blah. Look, That was fair and honest comment and so on. But he didn't stop there. He then went on to talk about his situation at the club. There are always rumours, he said. People have seen that I've not been playing much recently, and they've seen that we've been struggling. Let's just stop just there for 1 second. So his suggestion is that because he's not been playing that regularly, we've been struggling. Let's remind Mr. Antonio, who had a good game on Saturday, but let's remind him that his form in particular has dropped off quite dramatically for the past year. So it hasn't just been this season, it has been last year as well. So for him to suggest that because he's not been selected more regularly, or starting more regularly, should I say, that our form has dropped off, that's a little bit too much, to be honest with you. Anyway, he said it's one of those things where we play. It's one of those things where all I do is pay attention to myself and make sure I can play whenever I get the opportunity. My agent deals with all that, and if something happens, something happens. Right now, I'm a West Ham player, and I have to pay attention to that. If something changes, it changes. We've got a striker in, and I may be looking at other strikers. If West Ham don't want me, and then he went on to say, or Gianluca Scamacca, they're going to try and get someone out there who might, or they might want to have 3 options. You have to deal with whatever comes. Do I detect an awful lot of sour grapes with Antonio? I talked about him last week, and it's come up again. I think it's a concern. It's clear he's unhappy. It's clear that if we do get another striker in, whether it be Moffi or whoever else, that it's quite possible that Antonio is going to be gone. Now, I don't know. I mean, when you look at those comments, and you just sort of think, how does that affect other players around him? How does that affect the team itself? He's clearly he's made it very, very clear that he's unhappy. He doesn't like being on the bench. I don't think any player likes being on the bench, and I commend him for the fact that he's unhappy about being on the bench. But to say it so publicly, I just wonder how that goes down with the rest of the squad, and also to Gianluca Scamacca as well. How does he feel about hearing that? Now we've got another player in, and he's unhappy that another player's in. Now we've got Danny Ings in. How does he feel about Danny Ings coming in as well? Look, this is no longer a game for just 11 players. It's a squad game. And when a player is on form, he plays. When a player is not on form, he doesn't play. And I just got a feeling that Antonio is just a little bit too... I think his approach has been really, really disappointing. But, to suggest that our form has not been great because he's not been in the first team is a little bit rich in my eyes, to be honest with you. But let's get on to the game, because first of all, we played a perfect tribute to the late David Gold. It was honoured impeccably by the fans, and it was a really, really perfect, great send-off, to be honest with you. And I'm glad that nothing toxic was happening during before the game in order to make it feel sour. I guess the result as well did it well. But well done to the West Ham fans for paying a good tribute. When we saw the lineup, I was actually quite pleased. Benrahma was back in, Bowen and Antonio was sort of starting. I think everybody wanted Danny Ings to start, but we knew at some point he will come on. Agerd and Zuma finally lining up together, with Ogbonna. I looked at the team and I couldn't quite work out what the formation was going to be. Was that a 5-3-2? Was it a 3-4-3? Was it a 3-5-2? Was it a 5-2-2-1? Ironically, it was probably all throughout the game, because when we needed to sort of drop back to a 5, we did. When we needed to go forward, it became a sort of a wing back system going further forward. Antonio at times when we didn't have the ball was isolated on his own. But when we started to get the ball, you could see Bowen cutting across, or Benrahma cutting across to form a 2 or a 3 at times, to get a lot closer to him. It was a lot more coherent. The actual game itself, the actual formation and the tactics, etc., I think worked well. We've done this twice now, where we played Brentford in the cup, and that sort of, that wasn't a great game, but it worked for us. And now we've played against Everton in the league, and it's also worked for us. So I've got a feeling this is the way we're going forward. We clearly can't play with a back 4, because we know Cresswell, God love him, is not suited to playing at left back anymore. He just no longer has the pace, and we also know that Emerson doesn't have isn't an ideal left back. He's a good wing back, but not an ideal left back. The only other left back, or what you could say makeshift left back, that we have in the team at the moment is probably Ben Johnson. who hasn't been starting a lot lately. So I like the formation. I think what we did on Saturday in terms of formation, in terms of tactics, etc., I think it was good. Now let's put it in perspective. I know it was against Everton. It was against a very poor. I mean, they were poor. Let's put that in perspective. But what I can see finally halfway through the season is maybe David Moyes starting to play the team that he wants. A lot of that has got to do with a Gerd actually finally coming back and being able to play, lining up in the start, being in the starting lineup. And I kind of asked, when the Gerd was back, would Moyes go for a 4 or a 3? I think his hands been forced with Cresswell sort of, not doing too well. I think his hand has been forced to play at 3 at the back. But the problem with playing 3 at the back, of course, is that they're the only 3 natural 3 centre backs that we've got. And each one of them went down during the game. If you notice, Zuma went down. He was limping for most of the first half. Ogbonna went down early. I think that was a head injury, slight head injury. And of course, a Gerd went in for a challenge and he hobbled for a bit. And we're just all holding our heads and wondering, are they all going to make it through to the end of the game? And thankfully they did. And thankfully there are no further injury news apart from the Danny Ings injury. Look, it was a good display. It was decent. It was a decent display. Let's put it in perspective. I think Jared Bowen playing up front looked really dangerous. He was back to almost like the Jared Bowen that we once remembered. And for him to be able to cut in, and play a lot more central, I don't mind that. I've said that before. If David Moyes wants to convert yet another winger into a striker, I think Jared Bowen will be quite effective if we do that. And if we do play a wing-back system, whether it be Emerson and Soufal or Keras, Emerson, whoever they may be, allowing Jared Bowen to actually cut in and be more central, I think is quite good for us. And I think he looked sharp. I think Benrahma was great to have him back as well. And I think he looked good. And I couldn't fault any player. I looked at it and I even Fabianski was beginning to throw the ball out a bit quicker as well. So I think we look sharper. We look more purposeful. I think even Antonio, who was poor last week against Wolves, even he had a very decent game on Saturday. Can we maintain it? This is the trick now. People have just asked, can we actually maintain that form now? Because it's not just one game and it's all back to how it was before. We've got to continue this, and we've got to get stronger in the formation that Moyes has put out, and hope that we continue to pick up more points. I think it was good. I think it was a good display. I think it gave us hope. It gave us a little bit more confidence after that game and winning it quite comfortably. Anyway, like I said earlier on, I thought before Saturday we needed nine wins to make sure that we're going to be safe this season. Now that's one out, and we've got eight more wins we've got to get. Looking at the league, the remaining fixtures, I think we've got 6 games that we should say that we should be able to win, and then that means we need to get at least another 3 or 4 draws. It's doable. Look, it's doable. That has to be the minimum: 6 wins and 3 or 4 draws, or 8 wins. More to go. That's the minimum, no less. And if we start faltering again, then it could be curtains for us. I think I was pleased. I accept it was against Everton. They were poor. They really are in trouble. But I think it gave us a little bit of hope. So let's see what happens when we go forward. I'm expecting quite a few changes in the Derby game. I want to see some of the youngsters, what we have left of them after not selling them all. I want to see some of the youngsters go out there, because we might need them. If we continue to pick up more and more injuries, some of these youngsters may have to come in at some point. So I was pleased. Okay, let's go into the chat and see what you guys thought. So do forgive me. How far behind am I? 15 minutes behind. That's not too bad. So good evening to you, Will X. I hope you're well. Ings is faking injury, as he knows Moyes will play him back. Hammer time. Good evening to you. Can't believe it took this long for Ings to get injured. Oh dear. Good evening, Vinay. How are you? Is Scamacca really injured, or is he on his way? No, he's not on his way. There's no way. Look, to put it clearly, the player that if we do sign another striker or another attacker, then the player that's going is going to be Antonio. There's no way we're going to looking at getting rid of Scamacca. I know there's one or two teams. Is it Napoli apparently are showing interest in him, or one or two teams in back in Italy? But no, there's no talk about Scamacca leaving. Peter Chelmsford, board of preparing for the worst. Well, every club out. I mean, you may be alluding to the annual reports that came out, and there's a provision for relegation. Trust me, most teams do that. Then it's not just West Ham United. Most teams do make provisions for relegation. It's a contingency. It's what clubs do. I'm very well disabled, team. Thank you for joining, mate. I hope you're well too. Andy, good evening to you. Curse of a substitute striker style. Scamacca comes on as a sub at Wolves, get injured. Good point. Ings on as sub against Everton, gets injured. Only one not injured is Antonio. Evening, by the way. Evening to you, mate. Yeah. Good point. That is it. Are they cold when they come on and they pick up? And it's easier to pick up a knock. I don't know. NWO. Good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Ings was a good signing 5 years ago. Look, I actually do honestly think that if we manage to keep him fit, he'll get us a few goals. He'll get us half a dozen goals. That might be half a dozen goals that will save our season. But fuck me, getting injured in the first fucking game he plays. I don't know. Good evening, Ben. I hope you're well, mate. Glad you're looking forward to it. I'll try and be as chirpy as I possibly can. I didn't get them the right way around. Oh, is it Spurs before Forest? It is. You're absolutely right. So the next games are Newcastle, Chelsea, and Spurs, and then Forest. Fuck Fuck me. Good grief. Anyway, Aaron. You're on. Yes, it was Crime Watch. You're not wrong. Scarborough, good evening to you, mate. Just watched the game back and I enjoyed watching a Gerd playing out from the back. Look commanding. Let's be honest. Absolutely superb game by Gerd. We can see why David Moyes wanted to buy him. He was an absolute Rolls Royce out there. He played absolutely superbly. He was brilliant. And Paqueta, let's give him credit where credit's due, because he is much, much more comfortable in that sort of deeper role. And we saw it when he did it for Brazil. We're now beginning to see benefit. And even that 5-3-2, shall we say, formation, or whatever the hell it was, 5-2-2-1, even that suits Paqueta because he's slightly deeper alongside Declan Rice. Then you've got a player in front like Benrahma, etc. And then you've got two ahead of them and so on with a 5. And then Paqueta doesn't have to go wide because you've got the wing backs, etc. It worked. It actually did work. I know you're all going to say, yeah, but it's only Everton. But and the proof is going to be when we play, forget Derby for a moment, but when we play Newcastle in the league next. And it worked. Jonathan, I bet Ing spoke to Andy Carroll, Sheen Wright, Phillips, Wiltshire, all said to go to West Ham for a few minutes, claim your injury, then get paid for not playing. Oh, dear. So cynical. Scarborough. Agod is so key going forward to how we improve, along with Paqueta, who is getting the Premier League a bit more now, does a bit of everything. I like Paqueta. He's getting better. He's getting more comfortable in the game that he's playing. Yeah, credit to him. Chris, good evening to you. I believe we're going down. We won Saturday because Everton are horrific, 32% possession. I read that. I couldn't quite believe that, to be quite honest with you. I did check it, and you are right. It was a surprising percentage of possession, but you know what, in all honesty, it's what you do with the possession that you have. You can have 60-70% possession and do no well. Everton had 60 or 68% possession and they did nothing with it. So it's what you do with possession. So I don't necessarily mind not necessarily having a lot of possession if we make the most of the possession that we actually do have. Yes, and that's what I was going to mention next. The outcome of that game, of course. Where is it? Have I got it? Bear with me. No, I thought I did, but I haven't. The outcome of that game, of course, is that Frank Lampard has now been sacked, and it was called El Sacchio, wasn't it? What an awful way to talk about a game. But the outcome was, there we go. The outcome was that Lampard has been sacked, and I guess a lot of you wanted Moyes to be sacked, but unfortunately, it was Lampard instead. Look, I don't know what's going to happen to Everton and who they're going to get in. Maybe they'll get Sean Dyche. I'm not so sure. I don't know. But yeah, that was the outcome of the result of that game. What else have we got here? Let's scroll down. Good evening to you, Scott. How are you, mate? I'm usually listening while driving or walking home from work. So hard to get in on the chat, but always listen. Thank you, mate. Really much appreciated. And I hope you're well. NWO, we were okay for 15 to 20 minutes. Better teams will beat us easily. Let's see. I think that, as a lot of people have said, let's see what happens in the game against Newcastle. It's going to be a tough test. It's going to be a massively tough test against Newcastle in a couple of weeks' time. Good evening, Hammer Mulder. I hope you're well. I hope it's nice over there in LA. Peter, we can't rely on Zuma not picking up another injury before the end of the season. And it worried me. We thought he was out in the first half, the way he was hobbling about. Chris, Moyes' tactics are to keep everyone behind the ball. The blame is on him. Look, like I said, right now it's backs against the walls. If that's the way we're going to have to win games, then that's the way we're going to have to win games. It ain't going to be pretty. We've got ourselves in this position now, and maybe that is maybe going back to what Antonio said. Maybe going back to being the counter-attacking team rather than taking the game to the opposition itself. Lawrence says Moyes taking charge of the ladies now. Good evening to you, Guy boy. Do you know what Ings' injury? It's a knee injury, but we haven't been told. We've been told he's going to be out for about 3 or 4 games. He might just be back for the Spurs game. He was going to miss the Derby game anyway because he was cup-tied. He might just be back for the Spurs game. Neil, let's get your comments up. A minor injury after a late tackle in the game's dying stages, but thankfully the latest knock is not linked to any previous. That is also correct. If that is of any consolation at all, it's not linked to any of his previous injuries. It's a new injury. Well, why not? He's at West Ham. Why go back on an old injury? Just give him a new one to worry about. Anthony. Moyes is like a bloody great big anchor off the HMS Victory, holding us back. The players must be let off the leash. Moyes' last message should be Tora. Well, I think we had Emerson went forward. He hit the bar. Great save by Pickford. We had Declan Rice who broke through. He could have laid it off to Ings to score his first goal, but Declan Rice broke through. And look at Ings' movement. This is what we've missed. Ings as a natural. I mean, fucking hell, I'm saying this, and he's out for the next 3 or 4 games. But Ings' movement, look good. He's a natural striker. Not only is he good moving on the ball, he's good moving off the ball as well. And he created that space for Declan Rice to run through. So he was breaking away, trying to take players away with him for Rice to try and score. But Rice should have laid it off, to be quite honest with you. Alan Dunn, get rid of Ants. His head was turned to mush when he started playing for Jamaica, and now he's spitting the dummy. I don't get what's going on with him. I hope he isn't causing a ruckus in the dressing room, because that's the last thing we want right now. But he's clearly upset because we brought players in. And the irony, I did it in the show last week when I talked about Declan Rice. I talked about Antonio saying that we needed to bring in players as backup. What I didn't realize until I kept reading that story last year is he wanted a backup. He didn't want competition. And now that he's got competition, he's not happy about it. Look, it's a squad game, and he's got. If he thinks he's going elsewhere to get to start games, I think he'll be a bit surprised. Squirrel, good evening to you. Antonio is one of the main reasons why we're in this hole. Yeah, this is it. He's talking about alluding to the fact that we haven't been playing well because he hasn't been started. It's clear as what he said there in the interview last week, and yet he's been out of form for over a year. 8 Barley, good evening to you. Everton will go for Bielsa. That'd be an interesting move. Victor, good evening to you. Problem with Moyes is defensively minded coach working with attack minded players. He really doesn't know how to get the best out of these players. As Benrahma said, we play with a handbrake on. Yeah, agreed. Alan, sorry, I have to correct you still, but when there were Moyes favourites, they can be complete dog shit. He still plays them. Well, interestingly, he dropped Souček. If there was one big surprise of the game on Saturday, is he actually dropped Souček to the bench, and I thought, and he brought Benrahma in for him, which was an even bigger surprise. He put an attack-minded player in, and he dropped Souček. Now I hope he continues with that, because Benrahma was, he was creative at the weekend. Well, I think everyone played really well, to be quite honest with you, on the whole. NWO. Moyes still setting up for a draw every game, and we are playing at pre-season pace still. I don't know. Is it only me that thinks that we actually played reasonably well on Saturday? I know it was against a Duff Everton team. I accept that. But I genuinely thought we had a little bit more about us at the weekend, to be honest with you. Gary, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Paul, set up for draws every game. Lucky Bone was on a baby rush. Good evening, Glenn. I hope you're well. We still didn't play well. Sitting back against the worst team in the league. Can't play through at the back again. It must be only me then, because I actually thought it suited us, to be quite honest with you. I get it, we're at home, but in the predicament that we're in, the important thing was not to lose. And we didn't, and we scored 2 goals on the break as well. I actually genuinely don't mind. I think when I look at the players that we've got, like I said a moment ago, that, the fact that Cresswell isn't going to be trusted as a left back probably for the rest of the season. If we actually don't go out and buy a left back in this transfer window, I think we will continue to play through at the back with 2 wing backs who are going to be a little bit defensive minded as well. I actually don't mind, because if that allows us to have the 3 in the middle and then the 2 in attack, I'm quite happy with that, because it looks like we are reverting back to what we were doing before, where it looks like we're going to be hitting other teams on the break. Whilst we're down there, I know we've moved up, but we're still a point or so off the relegation area. But whilst we're still down there, frankly, I'm not suggesting that I'm going to enjoy watching the football, but whilst we're still down there, I'm quite happy for those tactics to be played out. I think it suits some players. I said a moment ago, it suits Emerson. There's no way he's going to play at left back. He's better off as a wing back. It suits Paqueta sitting a bit deeper. Bowen and Benrahma cutting in and supporting the attacker, who probably will be Scamacca when he comes back to play. I think fine. It gives us a little bit more up front. When we get the ball, it makes us a little bit more solid in defence. It will not be pretty, but if it means picking up more points at this moment in time, I'm all for it. Jerry, can't we sign another £15 million striker that can play for half an hour? Ings was a desperate signing, and it was always going to be a poor signing. I actually, like I said, keep him fit. It'll be a good signing. If he continues to stay unfit, it was a poor signing. I totally agree. Neil, Antonio proved what he can do when he stays on his feet, and I wonder if the signings of Ings has something to do with Antonio staying on his feet. Good point. It means that he knows that when all the strikers are back fit, he's not going to probably get a look in, because I can see quite potentially going forward, when they're back from injury, of course, is potentially Ings and Scamacca starting up front together, or in a 5-3-2 formation or whatever. I can see that happening. It's a really good point. Good evening to you, Mr. McCarthy. What's happened? John again. Frank Lampard's career started and ended at West Ham. Oh, yeah. Good point. He'll be back. He'll bounce back somewhere, won't he? Bill, Antonio has been found out by the refs constantly going down for nothing. And it is amazing that he stayed up and created that second goal, isn't it? Fina, Everton will improve once they get a new manager. They're not dead by no means. No, they're not. No team is at this moment in time. Let's see what manager they get, and let's see what impact it may or may not have. Ian, good evening to you. Give the youth a chance. I agree, but whilst Moyes is in the predicament he's in, unfortunately, the last thing he's going to be looking at is the youth. But they've got an opportunity against Derby on next Monday night, and let's see how many of them take that. Hopefully, most of them do, and gives Moyes a bit of a headache in terms of selection. Scott, a win is a win. A good is class. Downs should be starting. Antonio is done. I would agree with all those 3 things. Daniela, it's going to be interesting now Dawson's gone, whether we become happier in the squad. I think the situation will bring some unrest to the squad. From my understanding, it wasn't Dawson that was creating unhappiness. I think everybody loved Dawson in the club, and I think they were really gutted to see him go. Allison, even against the poor Everton, we had 40. So someone earlier said 32%. You're saying 43% 43% possession first half and 23 in the second half. Against better teams, they will definitely score against us. Yeah, it's poor possession. I'm not disagreeing with that. But like I said earlier, it's what you do with the possession that counts. Vina, if West Ham had a go at Chelsea, we could win. They're vulnerable, but will Moyes revert to being ultra defensive? We need points. But at the same time, we can't afford to lose points. So I don't know. Hopefully, let's see what happens. we're playing them at home, so hopefully we'll go for them. Joseph, Zaniolo has turned us down because of Moyes too. Yeah, I did Zaniolo last week, so I'm not going to mention him this week. But I don't know if that was because of Moyes, to be honest with you. Jerry, I said at the time, sick no Ings was a bad signing under the circumstances, and I stick by it. Good evening to you, Foe. Sullivan allegedly stated no top manager wants to join us, so we're in the relegation zone. Now we're not. Surely time to pull the trigger. Good on that. Yeah, good summation there. Eamon, good evening to you. How can people say Ings is a panic buy? Up to the game against Everton, he had scored more goals than our whole strike force put together. 6 goals. Absolutely correct. You're absolutely right. I don't think it was. I think what Moyes wanted, he wanted an experienced striker that was going to hit the ground running. Not hit the ground and get injured, but hit the ground running. And I think that's what he wanted. He wanted Ings. Fuck me, though. You know, it's just our luck that he got injured, isn't it? Crafty Dave, good evening to you. The players should be allowed to say what they think. The truth about Moyes' tactics shit. It's a difference, though, because both Benrahma and Antonio did say what they think, you know, about our play, etc. That's absolutely fine. I haven't got an issue with that. It's when Antonio started talking about the big I am, which I think makes it slightly wrong. Mike, good evening to you. Ings is waiting for the warmer weather. Let's go on to the next part of the show, shall we? And it's all about the players. So, as we've already started talking about, we've got a number of injuries again, haven't we? We've got injuries to well, let's start with Ings. Let's just go back to that. Let's get rid of that comment. As we all know, Danny Ings, he's out until probably the Spurs game. Look, 2.5-year contract he signed for us for a fee of £12 million with about 3 million in add-ons. Whilst we know of his injury record, we're also aware of his goal scoring record as well. Given the predicament we found ourselves in, I think I personally think that the signing was an understandable one. Like I said a moment ago, I think Moyes wanted an established player, someone that can be a good goal scorer, and he's got that with Ings. But unfortunately, along comes not only comes his goal scoring record, along comes his injury record as well. When he came on against Everton, he demonstrated what a natural striker does. Like I said, his movement on and off the ball was really good. But as I said again, no sooner as we're celebrating what Ings might bring to West Ham, we heard earlier this afternoon that he picked up a knee injury, which will keep him out for anything up to a month. Look, he was cup tied anyway against Derby, so he's going to miss the Newcastle game, the Chelsea game, and possibly the Spurs game. I already mentioned at the start of the show how much of an impact player injuries have had on our season. We just seem to be perpetually signing players with an injury history that we know is going to affect us at some point or another. Ings is a decent player. I disagree with the fact that some people think he was a panic buy. But I guess now with his injury, people will look at it in that way. Let's see what happens over the next few weeks, because we've also got Scamacca out. Now, Scamacca, we've been told, has also got a knee injury. And I mentioned that I did a show on that last week, quite in the middle of last week, talking about Scamacca being out for possibly a month as well. Look, we think he might also be back for the Spurs game, or possibly back for the Nottingham Forest game. So it's what we do in the next 3 games that really counts. You know, in the games against Newcastle, Chelsea, and Spurs, and how we cope with that. A little bit of slightly good news, maybe, I don't know, depends, is Maxwell Cornet posted a video of him working in the gym. I don't know what app it was, Instagram or whatever. He posted a video of him working in the gym and seemed to be doing relatively okay, moving, you know, quite freely. Look, it's not been confirmed whether he's had that surgery on his calf or not. But Cornet's post is a video showing what appears to be doing advanced rehabilitation work after he was analysed with a rare calf issue. It shows Cornet's attached to a resistance band whilst doing short sprints and jumps, loading weight on his calves and as he lands. So look, it looks fingers crossed, promising. I've tried to find out whether he might be due back sooner rather than later. I've been told that it might be probably another 3 weeks. Fuck me, another one coming back in another 3 weeks. Before we know, we're going to have about 4 strikers and 10 of our defenders all injured. Look, we do wish him well. We need one of them to come back sooner rather than later. So it looks like it could be another 3 or 4 weeks for Cornet as well. What about our players on loan? King Arthur was in the starting lineup for Besiktas in their away tie against Kayserispor on Sunday evening. They were 2-0 up by half time, and the host couldn't get back into the game. Besiktas had a player sent off in the dying minutes, but it didn't change the result. They are now 7th in their league in the Turkish league and doing. Sorry, no, I take that back. They're 3rd in the Turkish league, 11 on points with Fenerbahce. However, they have a game in hand, and Fenerbahce have, and a far superior goal difference. But doing well, good old Arthur out in Turkey. Nikola Vlasic, Torino are back to winning ways when they beat Fiorentina 1-0 away from home. It was their first league win since November, which seen them rise to 8th in the Italian league. However, it is theirs and Vlasic's second win of the week when they beat Coppa Italian holders AC Milan in the Cup 1-0 in midweek. Other players. Here's an interesting one. I talked last week about Emmanuel Longello, who didn't make the squad for Birmingham last week. And again, he wasn't in the squad this weekend against Preston. That's the second week in a row where the young player's been left out. Now, it's interesting because there was this story about Birmingham have signed 6 loan players and they can only use 5 at any one time. Now, if that's going to happen with Longello, and given that we've got an issue at left back, I would rather call time on his loan spell there and bring him back into the first team and make him fight for a place in the first team. Get him back in time to play against Burnley. I don't know if he's cup tied, to be honest with you, but get him back in. If he's going to be languishing in the Birmingham City squad and not even being able to get in the team that's playing games, then why not bring him back and see what might happen. Brian Kinnear, one of our many academy goalkeepers, has been sent out on loan to Falkirk for the rest of the season. He's one of 3 goalies that were out on loan this season. It initially started with Joseph Anang, originator Derby. I'm going to talk about him in a moment. Nathan Trott went out on loan to Danish First Division club Vejle Bold Club, and Jacob Knightbridge is on loan at Harrow Borough. Academy goalie Brian Kinnear is now on loan for the rest of the season at Falkirk. And they're fighting and they're in the 3rd tier of the Scottish League, but they're fighting for promotion and they're doing quite well. So good luck to Brian Kinnear. Right, Nathan Trott, he's back in action finally. The season ended in Denmark back in November. Trott is back in the team with a series of friendlies where they played second league division club Colding at the weekend, and he was back in goal and they won 2-0. So well done to him. As we all know, Craig Dawson is now, look at that photo. Doesn't that make you sad? Craig Dawson is now a Wolves player. He did an emotional farewell for West Ham, saying what an amazing 2.5 years it's been. As a club, we've achieved so much. And he'll cherish the moments forever. He's got nothing but love and respect for West Ham United. We do wish him well, of course. It's going to be, it's gutting because how many of you thought when Craig Dawson was first brought to the club, what a stupid signing it was? There you go. Bit like Ings now. He could prove us wrong. Craig Dawson proved us wrong. He certainly proved me wrong. I remember I was like, what? Why? Why are we bringing a player like this in? Second-rate defender. But he's done so well for us. He's been fantastic. 87 appearances for West Ham United, 9 goals and 2 assists. And one of the most memorable moments when I was out at Lyon with my friends, seeing him hammer that goal in from a Fornals corner in the quarterfinals. Absolutely superb. And we all wish him well because he's been a marvellous servant to West Ham. Absolutely fantastic player, and well done to him and good luck to him as well. A new target signing, came up today with Almira central defensive midfielder Samu Costa. I have to be honest, didn't hear much about him, so I did a quick recce on him earlier today. Apparently, Costa was rejected and moved to Wolves, and West Ham are now looking to make a move on this under-21 Portuguese international. Reports are suggesting that he's valued at around £22 million, but for a player who's only into his second season in the Spanish league, after signing for Romero for a fee of around £4 million, his value is likely to be between 10 and 15 million realistically. Agents, they like to inflate prices. He's really caught the eye in La Liga this season with some dominating performances in the middle of the park. He's described as having technical ability, energy and stamina in abundance. We certainly need someone to add a bit more skill in central midfield, especially when Declan Rice looks like he might be leaving. He's got a pass. I've compared his stats to Declan Rice to see just how close he might or might not be to him. Pass success rate of 81.7%. Declan Rice's pass success rate is 89%. Average tackles per game, 1.8. Declan's is average tackles of 2.3, so he's better there as well. Average number of interceptions, 1.5. Declan's is 1.6, so pretty similar. And 1.5 clearances for Costa and 1.3 for Rice. So Rice is still the better player overall. Rice has also got a higher return on shots percentage. So Costa has got a little bit of way to go, but he's been doing some interesting stuff in the Spanish league this season, and there may well be quite a bit of interest on him if he continues. Do I think we can get him? Do we need him? At this moment in time, I think perhaps we should be focusing on other areas. I said about left back at the earlier on. I think we definitely need a left back to come in, but there's been absolutely no rumour about any left backs coming to the club at all. And we're still looking at Moffi, who I'm going to talk about in a minute. But let's go to centre backs, because now that Craig Dawson has gone, it looks like David Moyes is again looking at Everton to potentially sign Michael Keane. I know you're all going to groan, and don't shoot the messenger, as I've said before, but these are the stories that are out there. Keane has fallen out. Ironically, he fell out with Frank Lampard and he was training on his own away from the rest of the squad. Now, look, now that Lampard has left, it's going to be interesting to see whether they're going to use Keane, whether they're going to call him back, use him, or actually get rid of him completely. Look, like I said earlier on, how many of you thought that the Dawson signing was a bad one? Who knows? I don't know. Keane, I mean, you know, he was a big money player a few years ago. He's played for England, etc. He's fallen, he's fallen from grace quite dramatically. But it's quite interesting to see whether Moyes thinks that whether lightning can strike twice. He did it with Dawson. Can he do it with Keane? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Perhaps there might be an opportunity to resurrect his career. Would it be a major? It could be something that will work. Like I said earlier, we now only have 3 centre backs, and they're all one tackle away from a bad injury, aren't they? You know, Zuma with his knees, Ogbonna is aging as well, Agerd with his ankle injuries, etc. I don't know. I can't turn around and say that this would be a bad signing, because I said that with Dawson and I was proved wrong. Maybe, just maybe, Moyes might prove us wrong again if he does decide to sign Michael Keane, or if Everton allow him to, of course. Right, goalies. I said earlier about Brian Kinnear going out on loan. With an apparent interest from Bournemouth for veteran goalie Darren Randolph, West Ham have confirmed that Joseph Anang has returned from his loan spell with Derby County. A statement says that West Ham and Derby have mutually agreed the goalie's return to East London, where we'll join up with the first team squad. Now, interestingly, Anang didn't play any games for Derby because he was with St. Patrick's in the Irish League before he switched to the Derby move. But just before he was going to make his debut for Derby, he fractured his wrist. I mean, of all things, in training. And he's basically been out for the rest of the season. And he's only just come back to recovery. Interestingly, he was doing his recuperation at West Ham rather than at Derby itself. And now it's been decided that he's going to stay with West Ham United. And if Darren Randolph does go to Bournemouth, it's quite possible that the West Ham are looking at Anang becoming third choice keeper. Imagine that, an academy player becoming part of the senior team. I mean, it's completely unheard of. And one player that should have become part of the senior team is Pierre Ekwa. I don't get this. I genuinely Don't get this. I'm really baffled by it. Just before the transfer window opened, we were hearing stories that West Ham were preparing to find Ekwa a loan spell for the rest of the season. He's a defensive-minded midfielder, as he's described himself. He plays as a number 8. He can do the defensive work. He can do the attacking work, etc. The original story suggested that Ekwa was going to be fast-tracked through the system, gaining some valuable experience at another team like Sunderland, etc., and then coming back to West Ham United to challenge for what might be a vacated spot left by Declan Rice if he does leave in the summer. There's been high praise for Ekwa whilst he's been here, suggesting that he could indeed make it to the top level. And yet the story today is that Ekwa's not signed on a loan deal with Sunderland, but he signed a 4.5-year permanent deal with the club for an undisclosed fee. He would be the third ex-West Ham United development player to go to Sunderland in the space of a year. Frederick Alves, the odd signing from Silkeborg a couple of years back, who went out on loan and then stayed with Sunderland, went there permanently this time last year, followed up in the summer by Ajibola Alese, who was sold to Sunderland, and now Ekwa. With other development players leaving, such as Perkins to Leeds, potentially Harrison Ashby to Newcastle, one does have to ask the serious question whether we do really have a plan to develop youth and bring them into the first team or not. Whilst I've reported in the past there are different reasons for players leaving, the agents get into players' ears, young players, etc., encouraging them to maybe move on elsewhere because the grass is always greener. Sometimes it's not always that. Sometimes you've got to look at other reasons as well. And I have alluded to, and other people have also alluded to, the opportunities at West Ham don't seem to be coming for some of the young players. It's strange. He was in the game against Man United on Friday night. I said he scored a great goal. He set up Divine Mbama for the second goal as well. Surely with the FA Cup coming back, he could have been maybe given an opportunity to play against Derby County to see how he would fare. I don't know. Look, my understanding is the permanent deal includes a sell-on fee. It also includes a buyback clause, just in case we made a mistake. There you go. But after what Ekwa said on signing for Sunderland, I wonder if he would ever come back to West Ham. He said, "It's great to see a club like Sunderland trusting young players, and that is something that really appealed to me. It seems a great environment for me to develop both as a person and a player. I mean, the Academy of Football doesn't seem to be West Ham United anymore, does it? It seems to be every other academy. What a shame. I think we've lost another potentially young, talented player. And I'm baffled. I really am." Next up is, I tell you what, before we go on to that, let's go into your chat because I'm going to get properly into transfer news, aren't I? Yes, I am. So give me a moment. Let's go into chat. Good evening to you, Mark Watson. Next crunch game for Moyes will be the Nottingham Forest game. We'll be lucky to pick up anything for the next 3. We've got to. We can't allow to lose the next 3 games. It's just not good. It's not good for the team morale or anything. GP, hello, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. Chris Lockwood. Everton will have a new lease of life when they appoint a new manager. Depends on who that manager might be. Sometimes, most times it happens. Jonathan, head, shoulders, knees and toes. But physio sings up. Addy Starr, good evening to you. I would like to see the team versus Everton play versus Derby. Need to get winning mentality into the squad. That's a good comment, actually. That's not a bad comment indeed. I would like to see 1 or 2 players rested because I don't want them bloody well injured. But I get that point. That's a really good point to make. And keep that winning momentum going because if we do beat, all right, it doesn't matter who it is. Getting that winning momentum can only bode well. Joseph, good evening to you, mate. Moyes ordered Ings to get injured so he can gel with a new strike partner in the rehab room. Good evening, Dean Hodges. Have I been watching a different team style? I haven't seen this attacking possession side all season. What I have watched is a team that sit back and try to play on the break. Yeah, same here. But for me, there was something different. I get it. All right, the stats, seem to sort of state that we didn't go all out attack, but we kind of won the game by half time. So 23% is not a lot of possession, I must admit. But I I was more comfortable with the way we played at the weekend, I guess. I suppose, it felt like we weren't going to lose the game. Let's put it that way. It felt like we weren't going to lose the game. Conceding so much possession, I was surprised by that. But conceding so much possession in the second half can be dangerous against more dangerous opposition. I get that. But I think for us, the first half was good. The first half, the way we played in the first half, we got the goals. We secured we cemented that win in the first half. And I would like to see a bit more of the first half displays, to be honest with you. Eamon, though we haven't won many games this season, we haven't been tonked every week either. Hopefully the Everton result is the start of us turning the corner. That's also a good point. Foxes, Antonio plays better with a decent back four. Against a decent back four or a decent back four for us? I didn't quite understand that. Crafty Dave, play Ashby. He's still a West Ham player. I agree. I'd like to see him play on Monday. I really would. And I know what was it? Who said it? I know what Addy said about keeping the same team, create a winning mentality, etc. But at the same time, you'd like to see what one or two of the other players can do, can't you? Or don't you, should I say? Still looks younger. I don't know. The way I'm going at this rate, mate, I'll give myself a bloody heart attack. David M. Compare with Lampard, lack of resources at Everton, and West Ham spent 170 million. We're both on 15 points with a long list of mistakes on Moyes. He cannot go soon enough. I think he's staying. I'm not saying I'm wishing he's staying. Don't misunderstand me. But I think this is it. I think this is what we're going to have for the rest of the season. Dabs, considering how bad we are at the moment, we don't have any out of form starting 11 players really. I genuinely did think we played okay, to be honest with you. I think, to be honest with you, Dabs, I think before the Everton game, you could highlight a number of players who were out of form. Bowen wasn't doing well. Even Declan didn't have great games so far this season. He's had one or two decent games. Who else has not been playing well? There's a number of players. Souček, as we know, hasn't played well. Antonio hasn't been playing well. For some reason, certainly in the first half against Everton, it seemed to sort of come together a little bit. Epic. We should play Souček as a centre-back. His defensive stats are great and he's excellent in the air. Yeah. I don't know. Should we? Will we get that desperate? If we get that desperate, I think Declan will go as a centre-back. B-Night. Moyes is probably being put under pressure behind the scenes to pick Benny, drop Souček and be more attacking. He has no authority at all. There's an element of truth there because I know that Danny Ings was suggested to him. Let's put it that way. Jonathan, we play with the handbrakes on one of those steering locks and clams on all wheels and puncture all wheels and the keys locked in the car. John Layton, hello mate, how are you? We played better Saturday than we have done. Some good link-up play with Emerson and Benny down the left. Yeah, agreed. Emerson, he played all right. I've slated him so far this season because I don't think he's given us enough. And I think he had a better game on Saturday without a doubt. Elbow, good evening to you. Everton will wait till Moyes is sacked at West Ham. Do you think they really want him back? I wonder. Interesting. Keith, Galispero to you. I hope you're well. It's 9:45. You've only missed. 9:45. It's 10:15 now. That was half an hour ago. Clive, don't forget to. Yes, people, I'm shit at doing this. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. Thank you for mentioning it, Clive. Stuart, evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Chris, Star would donate a tenner to your channel if we get 3 shots on target against the Giuntoli. Red 5. No, I won't. Red 5. Has there ever been anything more West Ham than Ings being out for nearly a month after 24 hours? No. It's pure West Ham. Howard. F me, we won 2-0. Clean sheet. While we are lacking confidence, let's look at some of the positive. It is positive. I do think it is. I agree. I didn't realise the stats for the second half was so low in possession. But the game was won. But I did it halfway through the second half go, we might need a third goal. But, in all honesty, we didn't have to exert much energy. Everton didn't have much in them. And I totally get what people are saying. Better teams could make more use of that possession. I get it. But at the same time, as I said, 43% possession in the first half led to 2 goals. Game was over by then, to be honest with you. Dabs. Am I stupid, or is Everton the first team we've scored more than one goal in the Premier? Oh, Christ. No, it's not. We beat Wolves 2-0, I think. I think we beat one or two other teams by a couple of goals as well. I don't think we've scored 3, though, to be honest with you. Let's scroll down. Stuart. I think having Oggy in defence is immense. West Ham will be fine, trust me. Oggy plays better with a 3 because he has slowed down. Not that he had a lot of pace in the first place. But Oggy, look, that back 3, apart from worrying that they were not going to get up after every challenge, did reasonably well. I think Zuma, great to have Zuma back, a good-look Imperious, and Ogbonna in the middle. It was a controlled defensive display. Yeah. Paul, Moyes dropped Souček, been obvious for months, too many experts. Well, he hasn't played well. Even I, who try to back Souček a lot, even I admitted that he had to be dropped eventually. Eamon, the team low on confidence, under huge pressure. First team players missing through injury and some other players not match fit yet. Some fans expect us to play tick-attack football and smash Everton 6-0. I agree. We're not going to do that. Like I said, got to batten down the hatches and get the points the best way we can. It won't be pretty, but likewise, I don't care. At this moment in time, I'd rather get the points and get them any which way rather than trying to... I agree. I get you. You're absolutely right. Because it was against Everton, I guess everyone thought we were going to smash them by a wide margin. Jerry, Downs has got to be a starter, or at least give him more game time. I like Downs, even just the cameo he had when he came on at the weekend. He looked decent, but at this moment in time, with Souček dropped, and having Paqueta, etc., all the other players that were in there, who would you drop? Because I wanted Fornals in, but when I looked at that lineup and I thought we actually played pretty well, then if you're going to fit Downs and Fornals in, who are you going to drop? You're going to end up dropping an attacking player like Benrahma, and then people will complain about that. Or like, I don't know, one of, Antonio or whatever. I actually... The only player I genuinely didn't want to be in there because of the poor game that he had the week before was Antonio in that starting lineup. When I looked at it, I thought, yeah, all right. When I looked at the lineup against Wolves the week before, I was like, we're going to lose. But when I looked at the lineup against Everton at the weekend, I thought, yeah, I don't mind that lineup. I think it's all right. And I think it was a fluid lineup. I said earlier on in the show, I didn't know if it was a 5-3-2, a 5-2-2-1 or whatever. It looked like, or a 3-4-3 or whatever. It looked like the formation was changing when needed. And, fair play to Moyes. It's the first time he's done it. He should have done it sooner. But I think the lineup looked good. But if we do get Downs playing more, and if we do get Fornals playing more, who are we going to drop for him? I don't disagree with that, to be quite honest with you, but someone's going to have to drop out for that. Andy, rumour has it still, Moyes has never seen any youth team players at any age group since return. No wonder he won't play them and get... This is the massive conundrum on this, mate, because... Moyes, when he came back to the club for the second time, when he became permanent manager, he called for the under-21s to train closer to the senior team. He takes them on pre-season. They play games in pre-season, etc. And this is what I don't understand about Moyes. I don't get it. He knows what's going on in the under-21s. I remember speaking a couple of years back when the coaches were all talking about how everyone stays really closely connected. He speaks to the under-21 coach. He speaks to Kevin Keane, the under-18s coach, etc. They're in constant communication about all the players. I don't know where that stopped. It's a weird one because, it looks like he doesn't know, but he actually does. He is a lot closer to the academy, to the development squads. And I don't know why there's all of a sudden there's a stop, as if like it gets to a certain point. He takes them on the European games, etc., gets them to a certain point, and then that's it. I don't get it. I don't understand why it stops. Ian, we get outnumbered in midfield when we play the extra defender. And if we give better teams up to 68% possession, we will lose more games than win in the rain. You see, I don't know if I agree with that because, well, yes, I get you. But what seemed to happen at the weekend, and do correct me if I'm wrong, but what seemed to happen at the weekend when we were defending, we went back to a 5, but then we had a 3 in midfield. And then with the wing backs, it kind of covered it. I don't know. You may be correct, and I think we're going to find out when we play against Chelsea, when we play against Newcastle, when we play against Spurs, and see what happens in those games. Squirrel, Sullivan and Moyes are the ultimate player repellents. Agent knows how toxic they are too. Agents love Sullivan because they know they can sell him any. Oh, shit. Vinay. Benny should be interviewed by ITN in the Mail so he can talk about Moyes' deranged tactics next time. Invite him. Jerry, do we know if Moyes lost the dressing room as previously stated? If he has, probably will have to go. I do know a story, but I've been told I'm not allowed to say it. And I did allude to it, if you listen carefully, earlier in the show when I was talking about different individual players. I'm going to have to shut up, otherwise I'll get myself in trouble. But no, from my understanding, to answer your question, Moyes hasn't lost the dressing room. He certainly hasn't lost the dressing room. And I'll say no more than that. Eamon, looking forward to seeing Ings and Scamacca play up front together. I personally think they will terrorise a few defences. The trick is having them both fit at the same time. That's the big trick. That's the big trick. Andy, where was the gym still? Somewhere on this planet? I don't know. I'm guessing it must have been at the normal training ground, but who knows? Who knows? You're talking about Cornet. Monumental Masonry, good evening to you. If footballers were rugby players, every game would be postponed through injuries. Well, no, I do agree. I mean, it's like, every time a player goes down, they're out for a month. Rugby players, American football players, can you imagine them missing so many games? I thought Dawson was a good signing. Keane, hell no. He's Everton broken. Eamon, I ain't got a problem with Keane if we're signing him as a backup. I mean, who do you think we can get as a backup? Certainly not Van Dijk type player. True. Well, see, this is it. We signed Dawson as a backup. He became Ballon Dawson. We signed Keane as a backup. He could also have one or two good games. Andy, Keane isn't good enough for Everton in under 21s. Coach didn't want him. What will he give us? Well, what did we think Dawson was going to give? This is why I'm loath to criticise. I don't know. I'm looking at Keane and I'm trying to find positives, and I'm not really sure, to be quite honest with you. But I was the same with Dawson. I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing signing Dawson? And yet he surprised us all. Would it work with Keane? I don't know. I genuinely do not know. Eamon, Keane has about 4 better central defenders in front of him at Everton. So, of course, he's going to struggle to get in their first team with us. He could only have 3 in front of him at best. Well, his percentages have gone down. He might make that first team. We only need Zuma to stay down, or Bonner, or, I mean, all 3 of them. Dabs, Paul, that's what we need because we don't cheat enough, bad as it sounds. What did Paul say? Let's go back and see what Paul said. No, I can't find Paul's comment, so do forgive me. Let's scroll down. What have we got? V9. Sullivan is planning to sell the club. No, he's not. Selling young players makes sense for cash liquidity. We don't get a lot for the young players, to be quite honest with you. And Sullivan is not going to sell. And even when what's his name died, when David Gold died, and people said immediately, "Oh, that's it. It means now that." Excuse me, I've got my notes have gone. When David Gold died, everyone said Kretinsky was immediately going to buy his shares, and that hasn't happened either. The Gold family are fans. Dave, I said this a few weeks back. David Cunningham, who is David Gold's son-in-law, has been on the West Ham board for a couple of years. He's an avid West Ham fan. One of his daughters, I can't remember which one, is also an avid West Ham fan. David Gold's shares have gone to the Gold family. They're keeping them. It seems that they're not looking to sell anytime soon. And David Sullivan as well isn't looking to sell his shares at West Ham anytime soon. Excuse me, 1 second. Right, they're back. So no, Sullivan isn't planning to sell. And we don't make a lot of money out of these young players. We sell them for what? $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million. It's not really a lot of money coming back. John, that Moyes version of the Red Bull model makes young players great and sell them on without bringing them through. Yeah, but they're not great. Bring them through and then sell them. That's fine if that happens. Give them a season or so, just like other clubs do. And their value goes up to 10, 12, 15 million. And then if you want to sell them and bring some money in, then fine. But you're right. He doesn't even get it that far. Steve, When Rice moves on, Agerd should be the next captain. Do you agree? Yes, I do. Yeah, I saw that in, I don't know where it was, Facebook. But yeah, he looks organized. You could see him ordering people around, organizing people throughout the whole game. Wonderful. That's great. And yes, he would make a good good captain. Agree. Bill, the academy has become a self-funding operation. Well, it does kind of pay for itself, yes, because the players that we bring in cost us next to nothing. We pay them small wages, etc. So if we do sell one or two of them for $1 million or so, it kind of gets that money back in. Yeah. Taz, I think Moyes will keep doing enough to save his job, but he has to go in the summer. We have to deal with the fact that he is here to stay. I agree with you. He is here to stay. And it's going to be interesting. Now, look, I've said this before, and I got mocked for this about a month or so ago when I said it. You know, the reason why I don't think they're going to let Moyes go, it was a big game. If we lost on Saturday, he would have gone. But it was a big game. Well, win actually kept him his job. I think if we were, I said this about a month ago, if we were down in that position, as we were a few times before, who would the West Ham United look to call upon to get us out of that situation? David Moyes. They did it after Bilic. They did it after Pellegrini. And West Ham's mind, you know, the board's thought process is this: we're down there. What if David Moyes wasn't managing us at the moment? Who would we look for to get us out of this predicament? David Moyes, which is why I never thought they were going to get rid of him. I think there was a point, and I said to myself, you know, if we're still languishing down there, come the World Cup, etc., and we're still playing the same turgid football, then and I said he should go, like many other people were saying so. But once the World Cup had finished and we got back, and it was clear that Moyes wasn't going anywhere, I thought to myself, they're relying on him. You know, they're looking at this sort of manager who's going to get us out of the predicament we're in. We know Moyes has got us in that predicament, but yeah, I think he is here to stay until the end of the season. What happens at the end of the summer, I don't know, because Moyes will have one more year left on his contract, and whether the board decide to move him on then or not, I just don't know. But then they might look at, or David Moyes might turn around and say, look what I did when I was at Everton. If you remember, I think it was his second or third season at Everton. He had a poor season. They almost got relegated, just got out of it. And then from there on in, they finished lower than 10th or 11th place in the league until he went to Man United. So I don't know what will happen. It's quite possible they might keep Moyes for the final season and then decide in the 24-25 season to actually replace him then. I don't know. Let's scroll down. Monumental masonry. I think we can pick up points against Spurs and Chelsea. Players and fans will be up for that. Good point. I agree. You know, it's not complete doom and gloom. Neil, an ideal captain, Steve, as he speaks 5 languages so he can communicate with all the players. He does. You know, absolutely. NWO, Lanzini can't make the squad, proves Moyes knows nothing. Again, I do ask a genuine question. Not that I don't think Lanzini is good enough to at least make a few cameo appearances. Who would you take out in order to put Lanzini in? Now, it would have been Souček, but even he's been dropped now. So out of that team that started on Saturday, genuine question, if you want someone like Lanzini in, or Fornals in, or Downs in, who would you drop out of that starting lineup to make way for them? Monumental, if history is anything to go by, Moyes should pull us back up the tape. There, you said it yourself. Thank you for that. I'm scrolling down, so do forgive me if I don't pick up all your comments. Anthony, Rice cannot hit a barn door when he shoots. If Samu Costa ratio is worse, he would miss an tanker. Right, because I didn't do it, I want to take a quick break and let's go to more transfer news. Right, I'm not going to go over the players I've already talked about, am I? That would be rather stupid of me. So let's go to the main subject of the evening. Well, main subject of the main transfer story of the evening. Terem Moffi. What on earth is going on? It seems that every time there's a transfer window open, there's always a saga with West Ham United. You know, every transfer window, There's a player that we hear about and hear about and hear about, and nothing materializes. This time last year, it was Darwin Núñez in January, and then for several seasons, it's been Youssef En-Nesyri. And there's been many other players that we keep being linked to and linked to and linked to, and nothing seems to happen. So what of Terem Moffi? What on earth is going on? Because almost every day we hear a different story coming out. So at the weekend, last week we were told that Moffi, Lorient had agreed a deal for £20 million plus up to £5 million add-ons, etc. And the only thing that was holding us back was doing a deal with the player himself, agreeing personal terms. And then we heard that the player didn't want to come to West Ham United because he favoured a move to Nice. And then we heard that Lorient want closer to 30 million euros, 26 million pounds, in order to sign him, because they're looking to sign Bamba Dieng from Marseille, so they want some money back in order to sign him. And now there's another twist, because Marseille are looking at signing Moffi to go there. So they want to sell Bamba Dieng to Lorient, and they want to take Moffi. However, Marseille are not cash rich. They don't have a lot of money. They've struggled with finances over the last few years. So it doesn't look like they'll be able to meet the demands of a £26 million fee. Now, there's another slight twist to this. Now, I don't want to say too much about this because I could get myself in an awful lot of trouble. But Bill Foley, the Bournemouth owner, has just recently acquired shares in a French football club, which happens to be Lorient. Now, they signed last week Ouattara from Lorient to Bournemouth. And there's a suggestion that quite possibly, if Moffi does come to England, he may not come to West Ham United. Could it be? I don't know. I really don't know. I was told at the weekend by a friend, look, did you know that Foley bought, it's a bit like Kretinsky, who owns another club, but he's got shares in West Ham United. So it's the same thing, you know, that Foley, he owns Bournemouth, but he's bought shares in Lorient. So that means, or does that mean, well, why would he want West Ham to be bolstered with the signing of Terem Moffi? You know, I guess, is there influence? Are you allowed to be influential like that? I don't know. And I don't want to get myself into trouble and have a libel case against me. So I'm not suggesting for a moment that Foley's had anything to do with it. But it's quite interesting that only last week he bought shares, or he's got a portion of Lorient. He hasn't got ownership of it because you can't have that, but he's got an interest in Lorient. So I don't know, people, you know, because we keep hearing different stories all the time about Terem Moffi, that he wants to stay at Nice. But En-Nesyri now, interestingly, are now looking at buying En-Nesyri. Fuck me. En-Nesyri doesn't want to come to West Ham, but he's quite happy to go to Nice. Clearly shows that he really doesn't absolutely favour West Ham whatsoever. But if En-Nesyri does go to Nice, then that closes the door on Moffi. That means he won't be going there. As I've said, Marseille don't have the money. So I can't see them possibly buying Moffi in this transfer window either. So at this moment in time, we're the only players in the market for Moffi. We're the only ones that are looking at trying to get him. Do I think we will? If we do, I think it will definitely be goodbye to Antonio, even though we've got injuries to Scamacca and Ings now. I think Moffi, I talked about him about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He sounds like a fantastic young player, 23 years of age, covers the whole length of the pitch. He can play just behind a striker. He can play as a striker as well. He doesn't venture out wide too much, but he plays an awful lot down the middle. He drops deep, picks up the ball, builds up play with the midfield, etc. I think he would be a fantastic signing for us. But it's quite interesting that the story keeps changing every week. You know, Moffi because he wants to go to Nice. Now Marseille want him. Now this, now that. Now that Lorient want nearer to 30 million. We've offered nearer to 30 million. We've offered, all right, 20 with 5 add-on. Maybe we'll go to 25 with a couple of million add-ons. I'd like to see us get him. I'd like to see us push the boat out and get him, because I think he would be a fantastic young player for us. Next up, we've done him. Next up is Scott McTominay. Look, again, We've been told that the West Ham are going to be looking for a replacement to Declan Rice, and 26-year-old defensive midfielder McTominay is back in the frame. That should say. So do forgive me, I didn't complete the slide properly. Look, would we want him? He's only made 24 appearances in all competitions so far this season for Man United, with only 7 starts in the Premier League. He's still valued at around £25 million, and with many speculating that Rice will definitely leave. Could he be a replacement for Declan Rice? Look, many would argue, and many would agree, that he's nowhere near Declan Rice's level. And if he was Declan Rice's level, why would Man United want to buy Declan Rice and let McTominay go? Look, I think he would be an interesting player to bring in if we do lose Declan Rice. Will he be at the level of Declan Rice? No, I don't think so. One more transfer. Well, it's not a transfer, really. It's an interesting story. Mark Noble has only just completed a month in his not even a month in his new job as sporting director. And there are already stories that we're looking to replace him. I found this story quite bizarre because apparently an Italian newspaper, Calcio Mercato, stated that Napoli sporting director Cristiano Giuntoli is attracting interest from West Ham United. Napoli are flying high in Serie A. There's something like 15 points clear of second place AC Milan. Now, the story apparently the story is highlighting that when the new owners take over West Ham, Giuntoli is one of the people that they'll bring in as a sporting director. Interestingly, the article didn't talk about who the new owners may be. I don't know. Look, he's done amazing work at Napoli. He's brought in some impressive players who are playing fantastic. They've got a 12-point lead to AC Milan, but with very little detail about who these owners may be, etc., etc. It's hard to put any credibility to this story at all. Right. Let's move into your comments and the final part of the show. Let's see. Let's scroll down and go to Anthony. Everton fans say that Cody and Tarkowski's record this season are worse than Keane and Holgate from last season. That's interesting because we wanted both Cody and Tarkowski to come to West Ham. Jonathan, get your comment up. On match day, I opened my phone to see the lineups and screamed no, like the Darth Vader meme. Moyes selections all over the place. What did you think of the selection for the weekend, though, to be honest? Wrecked Isle, Spurs won. Who were they playing? I should know. Did they play tonight? Monumental Masonry. Moyes is short-term. Moyes is short-term because he's near retirement. He probably never watches the youth, let alone play them. How many more years do you think he'll go? Ryan, fully fit Scamacca and Ings up top with Bowen in behind. I think that sounds good. I would probably put Bowen out wide again, but yeah, that's a good shout. Let's scroll down. Bill, now Nobles is back. The dressing room shouldn't be a problem. I agree. I'm really worried about what I said earlier on because maybe if we get this transfer in, it might sort out an issue. The Tofi transfer. Adam, we still need another central defender once Oggy goes, and with Zuma and Agurd, we will have a decent back three. Then we can sort the left and the right sides. Good shout. I do agree with that. I think Zuma and Agurd will be great. Oggy, final year of his final season of his contract, doesn't look like he'll be replaced. I love Oggy, but we know sometimes a player's time has come. And I do think we need another central defender without a doubt. Erect aisle dysfunction. Erect aisle dysfunction. Why the hell are we looking to sign a fourth choice Everton centre back? It's a joke. Because he will be fourth choice at West Ham United. You know, and I kind of get that. Fo, Fly Qatar Airways takeover. That's absolute bollocks, Fo. And you know it, mate. You know damn well. A lot of people have been talking about this. I mean, look, if they do, okay. But I genuinely don't think there's any truth to that. That rumor's been lingering around for quite some time now. Stella, I wouldn't be so sure about selling and not selling. Well, you know, anything can happen. But my understanding is I think everyone's expecting Sullivan to sell when the clause on the stadium expires at the end of March. I'm not so sure. Mark, who was the last defender that came through the academy and played regularly for us? Reece Oxford. Oh, actually, he didn't play regularly because he became Johnny Big Bollocks, and then we had to get rid of him for his attitude. Christ, I don't remember. Oxford would have made it if he'd kept his head straight. Danny, good evening, sir. Good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. I'm very well, thank you. I heard that Antonio wasn't happy about Ings coming in, so tackled and injured him in training. He didn't injure. He got injured at the end of the game, unfortunately. Vinay, Moyes could be dismissed after another 2 or 3 defeats. Can't say he will be here end of season. Look, I agree. If it goes sour again, look, if we start picking up a point here and there, etc., then I think Moyes will stay. But if we go another 3 games without defeated, and then if we lose again to Nottingham Forest, it's quite possible you may be right. But how much damage would have been done by then? Mandy, good evening to you. Johnson, to an extent. What did you say? Oh, good point, Mandy. So the question was asked, what defender? Rice was a defender. Good point. Johnson to an extent. Yeah, good point. Well done. Gary, good evening to Gary in Australia. How are you, mate? Love you. Thank you very much. Moyes out before we're out. I mean, there might still be the question about Moyes, like I said earlier. Vinay pointed out another 2 or 3 defeats, and then the Moyes out debate will start all over again. Bill, Qatars will buy up everyone else's shares and leave Sullivan as a minority shareholder. I think what Sullivan and Gold did say before is if someone with serious cash came to buy West Ham United and they felt that they can really elevate West Ham United to the next level, then they may sell up. The Qataris, I don't know. I do ask questions like that, and I keep being told there are no plans. But then who would tell me if there were plans? Moyes is a cause of the Moyes is cause of the relegation form. So to employ him to fight relegation deep before, no, my point is quite clear. Let me just go through that again. In the last 2 times when we've been in trouble, the club have called David Moyes to get us out of the problem. What the club have alluded to is if we were in trouble, the first manager they would think about getting would be David Moyes. So the logic is there. I get what you're saying. He's caused the relegation form. I don't deny that. But the irony is the West Ham board, if we had any other manager in the team at West Ham at the moment, the first manager they would probably look at to get us out of trouble is Moyes. Basically, the board believe that Moyes will get us out of this trouble. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Dabs. One player I was impressed with against Everton was Johnson. I thought he looked fired up. He hasn't played for a long time, and that's all because of contractual issues, etc. And I was glad he got a bit of game time. I like Johnson. I think he's much maligned, to be quite honest with you. Danny, that or it was the dodgy, cheap and lumpy grass at Turf Moor. I don't know what you're answering to, so do forgive me. Mandy, Paqueta and Benny cannot start together. Well, they did at the weekend, and I think they both played really well, to be quite honest with you. Paqueta playing deeper, Benny a little bit further forward. Bill, play a 4-4-2. We play 4-2-2. That would put us in trouble. NWO. Imagine that 2 up front. We can dream. Well, it looked like at certain times in the game on Saturday, it looked like we had 2 up front. Bowen was a lot closer, and then if it wasn't Bowen a lot closer, Benrahma was getting closer to Antonio. So it worked. It worked. We scored and we won. Squirrel. I think using Moyes as the manager to get us out of the mess that Moyes got us into is genius. I think you got my point. If Moyes wasn't the manager right now, the manager West Ham board would look at would be Moyes to get us out of this problem. There's a logic there. Trust me. Disabled team. Finding quality players in January is harder than people think. There is also financial fair play to contend with, which is why I can see maybe a Keane coming in. Would I want him? I'm not so sure. Epic. Vinay, it is unbelievable that some fans think Moyes is suddenly going to turn things around when there is no evidence whatsoever. I think if he continues to get the team to play the way we played on Saturday, especially in the first half, there might be a little bit of belief. But we've got to see what happens in the next few games, without a doubt. Let's scroll down. What are we up to? I'm catching up. I'm trying desperately to catch up. Jason. Thought Moffi said he wants to stay in France, family settled, etc. If true, then let's learn the lesson from Dawson and move on. That's apparently why he wanted to go to Nice. And now Marseille have an interest. Who knows? Let's see what happens with that. Do I think we will get Moffi? I'd like to think that we've got a good chance of getting Moffi, but quite possibly we won't. Is there anybody else on the horizon at the moment? No, not another striker that I've heard of. But McTominay is decent. I think he's good. I think he's okay. I think he'll put in a good shift for us. Julie, how are you? God, you're early. I hope you're well, Julie. I think McTominay would do a decent job for us, but I think he will always be, or any player that comes in will always be compared to Declan Rice. And the minute they have a bad game, oh, cheap man's Declan Rice, etc., etc. And here we go. McTominay isn't a footballer. He should be a nightclub bouncer. Here we go. See, epic. McTominay is a budget Souček. So one man's wine is another man's poison. Erect Isle again. New owners, you just said we aren't getting new owners. What is it? New owners, you just said we aren't getting new owners. What is it? No, I don't think we are. At this moment in time, I don't think we are likely to be getting new owners. I think the board, I think the Gold and Sullivan are not looking to share anytime soon. But let's see. Let's scroll down. Epic again. Neither Souček nor McTominay are good on the ball, but Souček has one of the best defensive stats in the league. Disabled team. Souček isn't a bad footballer. He has lost his form. Before anyone has a go, he should be on the bench and brought in with 20 minutes to go, as what happened the other day. Old school Paul, good evening to you. My live chat wasn't working until now. Well, welcome. And thank you for getting involved, mate. Much appreciated. Eamon, Anton Ferdinand, last central defenders come through the youth and play regularly. Not Moyes, not Rice. He was a central defender, right? Anton Ferdinand. Let's scroll down a bit more. Funky T, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. It was quite refreshing to see a different starting lineup. Antonio's podcast have an interesting insight into why we're playing so badly. I talked about that earlier, mate. Mandy, they wouldn't look for Moyes still if Moyes put us there in the first place. I think you got the... maybe I've not explained myself right, but like I said earlier, if Moyes wasn't the manager right now and we were in the predicament we're in, the first manager they would look at would be David Moyes to get us out of it. I don't know how else to say it. Richard, are we going for a new striker again now that Ings got injured? I think we were always looking at maybe two strikers anyway, with Terem Moffi and Ings. So I think if the Moffi thing doesn't happen in the next few days, and there's a lot of people that are suggesting it won't, then quite possibly we might have another one lined up. Mandy, sorry, that doesn't make sense. If Moyes' system lineup gets us in the bottom three, then carry on as he is the best man. I've explained it. I can't go over it again. Still, you sound like you're suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Empower Moyes. I'm not going to mention it again. Funky T, I think you got the gist of it. But I don't know. I'm still on the fence, Funky T, about Moyes, but I would rather stick with the devil. You know, the choice of available managers will stick with Moyes. Thank you. There you go. Other people are saying Moyes, not just me. Juha. Some West Ham fans really seem to like to pull the pin on the grenade just to see what happens on most things. Paul, a new manager and you will see a different attacking team. Billy Huckstep, where do you think Rice will go in the summer? I still think Rice might go abroad in the summer, to be quite honest with you. Right, that's it. I'm not doing any more because I've done an hour and 43 minutes. Thank you all for joining. Really much appreciated. Thank you all for challenging me with the Moyes comments. I think you got the gist. Shall I say it one more time? No, I won't. And I agree, Howard. I think if anywhere, he could go there. Right, that's Declan, not Moyes. Thank you all for joining. Really much appreciated. Thank you for comments, etc., etc. I'm going to do a couple of more shows throughout the week to talk about various stories that are coming up. They may not all be live shows. Might come back with a Friday late night on Friday night. So do join me for that, or look out for the pre-recorded shows that I may do throughout the week. Really much appreciated. Like I said earlier, if you're new to the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button and the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. And I will see you all very soon.